Welcome back to another episode of Nelson's Underground. We are joined here by Kyla, one of the varsity women's basketball team members. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Um, while we have you here, just tell us about what it's been being an athlete here on campus.
Being an athlete at Nelson has been so fun. I think it's unique to other schools that a lot of people don't typically come to Nelson. A lot of athletes don't typically come to Nelson for Nelson. But one thing that I think has been super cool and I think has rung true to so many athletes that I've seen here that stay is the longer you stay here, the more you may not have come to Nelson for the Nelson culture, but you really grow to love it. And it is just so refreshing to be in a community with like-minded people. And I just think that is one thing that is so cool about the way that God uses athletes at Nelson is because they may not have wanted to come here originally, but once they're here, God just really moves in them. And it's just a really cool experience to be an athlete here because I just feel like I have a different perspective than people coming here for their faith, but then I have developed and grown in my faith, and it's just something really cool to see.
How long have you been playing basketball? I presume is the only sport?
Yes.
How long have you been playing that here?
I've been playing for 4 years.
Okay.
Yes, I did all of my eligibility here. So that's pretty unique. A lot of college people transfer around and
That's
hop
very
around.
true. The amount of athletes I've met where they're like, no, this is like my 6th playing senior year. And I'm like,
Yes, it is very common to transfer around in college. So
What would an average week of school trying to balance all of your homework and your athletics, what would that look like for you?
typically we have about 10 hours of practice a week,
Okay.
and that on top of 12 to 15 hours of school. Then usually during season, which is from October to February, so most of the school year, we have games twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And games are, we've got to get there an hour and a half before the game. The games last usually 2 hours, and then of course the men play after, and you want to support the men. So, those usually take me out from 4:30. Well, actually, I've got to get ready before the game.
yep.
So usually from 3 to 9 p.m. on a game day, I'm pretty much taken out of anything else. If I really wanted to, I can leave at 8 and go do some homework. But part of the
Who
fun
wants
is
to do that?
yes,
Yeah.
part of the fun is enjoying the men's play. And then that doesn't include travel weekends. Usually we'll leave on Wednesday at 8 a.m. And we're gone until Sunday when we get back at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Wow.
So those weeks are hard because you're only at school Monday through Wednesday, and Wednesday you're packing Wednesday you're leaving. You're only at school Monday and Tuesday, and you're leaving Wednesday morning. So those weeks are hard. So it's very fun. I'm someone who likes to be busy, so I enjoy the constant schedule, but it definitely makes me, whenever I don't have any time to rest, I'm definitely realizing how much I'm going. And so it just kind of gets a little overwhelming in those scenarios.
Was time management an issue early on for you to try to balance all that? Because that seems like you said, you're
lot.
just all the time go.
I remember my freshman year, it was funny, we were 14 freshmen on the team, which is very unique, so none of us knew what we were doing.
Ooh.
And we're all adjusting to these crazy new schedules because everything's brand new. And I remember me and one of my teammates at the time, we went and we logged out everything that we had to do. And at that time, we're also doing 2 hours of study hall a week with our team, 3 hours on the side, just weights and everything. And so we logged all the hours that we had accounted for. And whenever we got down to it, it was oh, okay, we have 2 hours to sleep each night, so that's fine.
Oh.
Granted, we did factor in social time, but
Right.
I think we factored in like 2 extra hours of that a day. And so if you add back social time, you get 4 hours of sleep. And so it was just, I remember at first we were like, oh my gosh. But I mean, that was very beginning of the year and we're freshmen, didn't know how to really handle ourselves. So obviously it has not been like that all 4 years and we've learned to adjust and you kind of have to make priorities and everything. But definitely time management was really hard at the beginning and just learning to like have to say no to people or have to not feel bad whenever you can't be there for everything.
Okay, so our next question is more on the positive side. Is there any sort of like funny story that you have about your time, whether it's like, during a game or during a practice or anything, any funny story?
One of my favorite memories from 4 years is last year we were in Kansas and it was like 11:30, 11:45. We're all just up in the hotel rooms hanging out. And then all of a sudden the fire alarms start going off and we start freaking out and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so we all get our stuff and we go downstairs and we're all waiting outside and it's like 20 degrees outside and we just like we're in our pajamas and just like blankets and we meet like the men's team down there, the athletic trainer, our coaches, and we're all like, what's going on? And we think it's a drill, of course. But then
it was a real thing.
Yes, we started doing more research. The first floor ice machine caught on fire.
Oh,
the ice machine?
Yes. How ironic. But so we had to wait out there for like 2 hours.
No.
It's
so cold.
Yeah. We waited out there for like 2 hours and
did you guys ever find out how it caught on fire?
No, we didn't actually. It was so funny though, and this is funny about being a woman. We're waiting out there for 2 hours and we're gonna have to change hotel rooms and Stu comes over, or Stu is the athletic trainer, and he's with us. And he comes out with the girls' keys to the bus, the small bus, because girls are smaller, so girls take the small bus. Totally understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Still annoying as the tallest one, but totally understandable. They are 6'7", fine.
Right.
So
You're
we're
the tallest one on the team, Kyla?
Yes.
Really? I thought
Yeah.
you were like probably maybe average. Like
No, I'm average for a women's basketball player, but not NAIA.
Oh.
NAIA is very much like you don't have the height to. That's what I like to think of it as. But so Stu has our bus keys and he goes and turns on our bus and heats it up for us, so we don't have to wait in the cold. All the men's players go and get on our bus, and there's no room for us on the bus.
Wimps.
So the whole women's team is just outside
that's
shivering.
such a guy thing to
You
do.
wimps.
Luckily, their bus driver went and got their keys.
And then you got
eventually.
their bus?
Yes, we did.
Y'all got the bigger bus in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was a really funny memory because we had to change hotel rooms at like 2 a.m.
Ooh.
And then we played the next day. Luckily, Central has always been a little underperforming, but
Oh, okay.
Like,
All right.
so it wasn't
A casual dig.
Yeah.
Not on our best. We can take it.
exactly.
That's funny.
What has been like a bad part about having to try to manage it or just being an athlete here on campus?
The most frustrating part to me is my inability to give 100% into, or I guess what it feels like, my 100% into everything.
Mhm.
Especially like this semester, the scheduling issues with the film that we're making and then basketball schedule and practice. And I just feel so much guilt towards both parties that I'm involved in because I care so much about both of them and I want to be able to give my 100% to both. And so it makes me feel super inadequate and guilty whenever I just can't do both. And especially whenever it's something that I feel like it's out of my control, but then I also feel like, I also feel like my brain's telling me like, well, you're not doing enough. And so it's just really hard to balance like I am trying as hard as I can, but then my brain's telling me like, well, you still didn't do all of it that good.
Right.
And just trying to balance that. I don't have to be perfect to be giving my 100% effort. And it's also okay to rely on other people, and also giving myself the grace that the people in my life, my film crew, they love me and they give me grace. My teammates, they love me, they give me grace.
Yeah.
And they're not looking at me with a critical eye. They're not like, seriously, she doesn't care about us. They see that I care about this and that I have other commitments too.
Yeah.
So just reminding myself that, and not like being so hard on myself whenever I feel like I can't do both.
Obviously, being an athlete, a student athlete in general, I think is very time consuming, obviously. But especially with the degree you're doing, because we were talking about this before the podcast, you're DMA, right?
Yes.
Not comm studies. Okay. So he was right. I was like,
Yes.
I for sure thought you were comm studies, and I was like, wait, my bad. But DMA, if y'all are not familiar, like this degree, we call it like a cult, basically. It's digital media arts, and it's harder than people give it credit for it, like honestly.
It's a team as it is.
Yes.
I feel like there's no other, I mean, I'm not in the other major, so I don't know, but I feel like no other major gets as close as DMA kids do, because you're not putting in the same hours or like just problem solving and frustration, and like you're going through it with these people trying to figure out video problems. I mean, Price always says it, you sign up to solve a million problems when you do DMA, so.
That's a good quote. He never told us that.
He says...
Y'all got the special quotes. Goodness.
He's got the Uncle Rob book.
Yeah.
It's because we're women.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
But,
Okay, Bella.
That's why he doesn't care about her classes.
But along that line, in S3 class, they make you go talk to your advisor. Who is it? What is it called?
Your
Department
academic
chair?
advisor or
Yeah,
something,
advisor.
yeah.
I don't
Whoever
know.
Price is for the department, they make you go talk to that guy. And
We'll have a
so,
chat.
yeah, so we went, I think he did a big group meeting with all of the people trying to talk to him. And he was like, all right, how many athletes do I got in this room? He's like pointing at me and Ryan and Jazra and Sam and like all the athletes at the time. And he's like, well, by the time you leave here, you're either gonna have to quit your sport or DMA.
Oh, Price.
Interesting.
And I
Little did
just-
he know.
Yeah, I remember just looking at him like, okay, I am not going to be at Nelson without basketball, and I'm not going to be in college without DMA. So I don't know what you want from me, because
Yeah.
I'm doing both.
I'm a spike.
Here you are,
Yeah.
senior last semester.
I always like to throw that in his face.
As you should.
And it's
Honestly,
also,
yeah.
it's funny, he's got the most athletes that he's had in his class this year. So
Yeah.
We have so many in our podcasting class too, like this
And
class
intro.
specifically.
it's awesome, I think. And I feel like DMA is a field that like athletes would like. And I feel like especially there's a lot of opportunity in sports media.
Well, part of
Yes.
it is like it's not just like it's not not just book study. It's really like
Yes.
it's hands-on. You have to. That's the only way you can learn.
Yes, I agree. I feel like so many athletes like to go into coaching or just things that aren't like accounting and sitting at a desk all day. And so it honestly surprises me there's not more DMA people athletes in DMA.
Only thing I can think of is Price scares everyone off.
That could, yeah,
Scares them
that's
away.
true. That is true.
Yeah. Kind of like a bad girlfriend, like a bad ex-girlfriend or something.
Yeah.
Price is a bad ex-girlfriend.
Price is
Yeah.
a
Alright,
I'm
bad
keeping that
You
in.
heard it here first, folks.
That's definitely
That's
making it in.
amazing. Oh my gosh.
So it's been noted by myself and by, for example, Cabela, me and her have talked about it before, that during basketball games, the women's team gets a lot less attention. Like there's no musical intros, that sort of thing. Does that affect your guys' like mentality going into the games in any positive or negative ways, knowing that?
I wouldn't say it affects our mentality in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the unfairness all of the unfairness is fine for a game. It doesn't affect how we play that specific game, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I could speak for most of my teammates and say the same.
Yeah.
I would say it's just an overall morale thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bunch of little things that add up to make you feel smaller. And it's
for
not
sure.
like it's really, I understand that a lot of the things that may seem unfair or unequal aren't in anyone's control, or there's other influences, and it's not like it's a screw the women's team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I say a different word than screw?
No,
Okay.
you're fine.
But
It's
can
more like
always-
a
we
culture
can-
thing in
we
a
can always
way.
bleep.
yes, it's yeah, it just when you look at all the little things and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, like, oh, we're just a little bit smaller than y'all. Like, y'all just don't care about us as much.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
but for no other reason other than just that we're women. And not to say y'all people are looking at us saying they are women, we don't care.
Yeah.
But it is everything that the reason they don't care as much, all of it is as a result from this long trickling thing of that
Mhm.
stems from we're the women's team and not the men's team.
Yeah.
I know there's one thing that I always notice that always makes me sad is anytime there's any like promotional things anywhere, any graphics, they'll always do representation from all the different teams that have like their own name. But if it has women's in front of it, is like the only differentiator, it doesn't usually get a spot on there. So like women's soccer, women's track,
Oh.
women's
Yeah.
basketball. Volleyball
Interesting.
usually gets more time to shine because they
Mhm.
have their own sport.
Right. 'Cause it's
But it's like when they put basketball up there, it's like they only just ever put the men's up there.
Yeah.
And which I get it for every so often, but when it's every time, and you're
it's
looking and
come
you're
on.
like, oh, okay, so
yeah.
women's team don't exist
Like,
here.
we're here too.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like the Jumbotron, even in the gym, I don't think there's like a single picture of the women's team up there. There's like a million of alumni men's basketball players. And also when you look out in the crowds and you see like you look out in the crowds and you see twice as many media people there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
you're like,
right.
Oh. I'm like, I know that the men's pictures can look a lot cooler, but I also know you can find those cool pics in a women's game.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
not like it's just completely lost. Like, this game's gonna be terrible.
Right. It's not.
Um,
yeah.
So it's just all those little things that just kind of add up, and you're like, oh, okay. So we're just not quite as relevant to everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it's like I said, it's fine in the games, but I think it's just an overall morale thing that it takes away.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's really understandable.
Yes.
And- Or good.
Oh, I was going to say, and I feel like that's part of the reason that the women's team, or me especially, I feel like that's part of the reason that winning and losing affects me so much is because
Yeah.
I want to like look out at everybody else and be like, look, we're good. Or like,
Mhm.
Like approving.
yes,
Yeah.
like, look, we're like, I promise. Because obviously the men's team on campus is really good, super notable. Coach Steele is a super winning coach and has this great reputation. But I also just want to be like, oh, look, we're still fun to watch. Please
Yeah.
still care
Definitely.
about us.
Yeah.
So,
That's really fair. Yeah. I played basketball in high school.
mhm.
I'm not claiming any sort of actual
No
skill.
claim to fame.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, like I would just notice, and this is also specific to where I grew up because I grew up overseas in a country where basketball is not like a huge sport.
Mhm.
Soccer is the big sport. So like our games definitely wouldn't get that much attention. In our case, it had a lot more to do with just the sport itself, but on top of the fact that we were a women's team.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's interesting when you see what like where people's priorities are, and it's something that it feels just really unfair. It kind of feels invalidating.
Mhm.
So yeah, sorry to hear that.
It's okay. It's the worst part is, because I understand, like, I can't control the attendance turnout and everything, and I do understand that men's game is faster than women's. I think you can learn to appreciate women's in a different way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I do understand that if you don't know anything about sports, you show up to a men's game, it's really fast and whatever. But the hardest things are all the things that seem not intentional, because I don't think they're intentional, but that are like, you can control that. That doesn't have to be unequal.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many games where the cheerleaders only show up to the men's game.
Mm.
And I don't blame them at all, because they have their own thing going on and they're being told something completely different.
Yeah.
But I just think, like, why that can be equal? Why would you not make
Right,
that equal?
why not?
Why would you not give cheerleaders to the women's game the same as the men's? Or Cabela told me about the incentive they do at the halftime of the men's game and not the women's. I was always under the impression they did it at our game. So just things like that, where you're like, that can
Like you
be
can
equal.
control that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you didn't
Make the effort.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it gives an excuse for all the times where it's out of everyone's control.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
That's a little irritating.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I'm gonna go to just women's games and I'm leaving. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Not supporting the men's at all.
I'm joking.
If I actually have time, I will go to a women's basketball game after.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that makes me really sad, is I get super, like, it makes me feel like, oh, I don't want people to support the men. But I don't want to be like that.
Right.
Like, I want people to support the men. I love our men's
Equality,
team.
people.
Yes.
Yes, our
Yeah.
freshman year, I was like the men's team biggest fan. And so some of that just kind of like rubs off on me in a bad way. And I
Yeah.
keep being like, God, don't act like that.
Is there anything that you can think of, if you were to, for our audience members, that if they were to look at you and the other women on the basketball team, that they wouldn't know, like, about the athletic life?
Not to sound like super cheesy, but I have never struggled with my mental health the way I have in college athletics. Granted, it's been one of the biggest blessings of my life, but not to say it hasn't been. It's just so mentally exhausting. You're jumping through loops, just trying to figure out your role on the team, trying to, because everyone there is good, and it's just it's a completely different world than high school athletics, and that in high school athletics there's a handful of good players, and but in college everyone's good. The coach recruited everyone, he values everyone, you value everyone, you're best friends with everyone on the team. There's the added of like seeing each other 24/7, your teammates, the exhaustion, the college, being away from home. And so just all of those factors added up, it has been one of the most exhausting times on my mental health. So I think that, and I say that even, and I know how much of a blessing this is, and how like I would never trade any of this, and I'm very fortunate for the situation I'm in. But I think just overall, even if you're not letting it be a excuse or a handicap for you, your mental health, I just think the world of college athletics is riddled with mentally ill people, and just to love on them and be there, and just, especially in those times of feeling like inadequate or guilty, like there's been so many times where I just want to be like, I'm so sorry to my like DMA classmates, because I just feel so like, I'm so sorry I've let you down. Like, oh my gosh. But it's just like everything. And I know that, and sometimes, I'm not saying some people may use an excuse and everything, but I just think that, just the mental health struggle is so crazy. Even if you're like trying not to let it get to you, it's just there's just so many factors.
Yeah, I imagine it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would say it's one of those like, what was I gonna say?
Word it in the mind, word it in the mind.
It's just one of those situations that it's the perfect storm is brewing. Even if it's good things going in your life, it's the mix of like exhaustion and
It's a ticking time bomb.
Yes, I feel like it's not even anything that you can do to prevent it. Not saying it's going to go haywire every time, but there's some form of something stirring on in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I feel really inspired because you talking about all this, you're like, and the fact that you're aware that this is affecting you mentally, I'm sure physically, obviously, and probably spiritually as well. I think the fact that you're aware helps us see that you are in a better headspace,
Yeah.
good headspace.
Definitely. And you've mentioned it a couple times, like in the past, so I just want to touch upon this as a little promo for it. You said you were part of the film crew for the upcoming film. Can you give a description of like what your role was and like what you did this semester on top of being an athlete?
Yeah, and a student.
Okay, so my role for the film, first of all, this summer, me and Cabela co-wrote it. I decided that last spring because I was like, basketball is going to be busy and I don't know how involved I'm going to be. I want to get my mark in here somewhere. So me and Cabela spent the summer writing it, which was super fun. And I'm so glad I did that. And I loved writing with Cabela. And then during production, I was first assistant director. So I was Cabela's first-hand man, which was awesome. Because also Cabela is a great director and oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see what she does in the future.
All the love for Cabela.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh
over
my
here.
gosh.
Haha.
So much love for Cabela. And I was really excited for her to get that role because I did not want that role in general.
Nope.
Not me.
I didn't want that role. I don't really like telling people what to do like that. So, not that Cabela. Cabela is very good at delegating, and I love Cabela's leadership. That's what I mean by that. Cabela is such a great leader and is so good at like rallying people behind her and getting people to like follow suit on her vision. So I was really excited to work beside her.
Yep.
And my role was to facilitate shoot day or production days and get things going, and then also just to help Cabela. And then also because we co-wrote it, we were talking about direction together, but she would be the one directing the actors. And then now we're editing, so I'm just really excited.
Almost there.
And when does that come out?
April 10th in the Hagee. Everyone
Yes.
be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be
there.
there.
Or be square.
Be there.
And if you like
Seriously.
being square, then I'm going to threaten you with being circular.
It's in the nick of time.
Do you have any sort of maybe advice or any tips for incoming freshman athletes? Maybe even specifically new women's basketball players that are coming in and joining.
Or
the
women
front
athletes in
lines.
general.
Women
Yes,
athletes in general.
true.
This is true.
I would say the best thing that the sport gave me was the people in my life. My teammates from over the years are people I want to plan my life around in the future. I want our kids to grow up together, and I just love them so deeply. And I feel like part of the reason is because of how deeply we were able to get to know each other in basketball and off basketball. We're going through life together 24/7 almost, except for the 2 hours I'm in class a day. I'm with them. And we've just grown so much together, and they're just my people for life. They know exactly who I am. I know they would never judge me. I can go up and down, that they're going to pull me steady. And so, all that to say, no matter what's going on at school, what's going on in basketball, because it is always going to be high and low. No matter where you go, no matter what year it is, it will always be high and low. There will be 2 days in between that you feel like you're rocking steady. And it is the people that you are around that are going to tie you down and keep you steady, because, I mean, they are the reason I'm here at Nelson 4 years later, and they've just been my rock here. So really look out for your people, and everything else will fall into place, because it has for me.
That was a great word of encouragement that Kyla gave on today's episode. But now we have someone who wants to give a word of encouragement to her.
Well, hello, Kyla. For those who may not know, I am Kyla's director for Nelson Films. She is my assistant director. And I wanted to hop on here and say that I don't think I could have possibly had a better assistant director. We wrote the script together, and every single time we got stuck because there's a plot hole or some other problem, Kyla always had a fantastic solution. and she's always had good ideas with that. She helped write the script. It's amazing. And then we get to pre-production, and we're trying to plan shots, and we're trying to plan how we want our actors to say things, and she has always had fantastic ideas for that. And then we're on set, and I'll be sitting there directing, and I'm like, man, something's not working with this. And then here comes Kyla with, hey, do you think maybe we should tell him to do this? Or if I forget something, she always has the solution. This is what we should do, or hey, you forgot about this, and always helpful, and always so humble about it. But she is fantastic, incredibly creative, one of the most creative people I know, and it has been my pleasure working with her on this film. And honestly, I just don't think I could have had a better assistant director. So I love you, Kyla.
Thanks for tuning in to Nelson's Underground.
You can check out all of our future episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and any other podcast platform.
Brought to you by the Three Latinas.